So your father passed away when he was 92?
All right, he was 92 years old. He was, at 16, he graduated high school. His father wanted him to go to college. He did not want to go to college. He wanted to fly, and his father wouldn't pay for flying lessons. So he went to Florida. He picked oranges for a whole year, saved his money, learned to fly, and then went in the Air Force. Came out of the Air Force, became an airline captain. He never left the Air Force Reserve. He remained with them. At 60, he retired as a colonel. But the Air Force asked him if he would stay on as a liaison officer for the Air Force Academy because he had one of the best records for boys staying in the academy. He gave our government 32 years free. When he died, he still had 15 appointments we had to cancel for boys to be interviewed for the academy. He was a volunteer fireman, and at 92 still answered every call. He fell off a ladder coming off a roof, broke his ribs, and did internal damage which was never picked up until it was too late. My mom was 87. She lived alone. She drove her car. She had a stroke, and she only lived 3 months after the stroke. But up until then was completely self-sufficient and active.
Mm-hmm.
What did they do during their life to live so long, do you think? What were the keys to their living so long?
Neither one of them ever smoked.
Which it was really common during your
neither
time.
one of them smoked, and neither one of them drank. And my dad used to say it was good clean air up there that kept them strong and healthy. They were basically holistic and didn't take a lot of medication and did take a lot of vitamins and minerals. And they lived great lives. They were active their whole life.
How was your home life growing up, and were you allowed to have boys over to the house? And if so, how did your dad react to you having boys over the house? What were his rules?
My home life was great growing up. His rules, I was allowed to have boys and girls at the house. I was not allowed to date until I was 16. I was not allowed to go in a car with a boy until I was 17. I had to be in at midnight right up until the day I got married. And I was. And it didn't faze me. I never thought to argue with them or tell them no. That was the rules of the house. My dad was my knight in shining armor, so he could have told me to be home at 10 o'clock and I would have been.
Do you think because society's changed that also maybe some family rules like that have changed? You know, people in our generation, there's a lot of things going on till 4 in the morning, or, you know, late night movies that start at midnight and things like that. And was that something that went on when you were growing up, or did things usually end a little bit earlier on in the night?
Well, as I said, I was in show business, and I danced in nightclubs. So I was out until 3 and 4 in the morning when I was working.
Okay.
And could you go out to yes, you did. They had floor shows in the clubs. They had live bands every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with full floor shows, dancing, music, everything.
Okay.
My father really didn't care if I wasn't dancing. I had to be in at midnight.
Right.
And has it changed? Yes, but I had the rules with the boys, and if I had girls and I was raising them right now, they would probably hate me as a mother because I would have the same rules.
So now we're going to switch again and talk about some different lifetime changes over your years. So what would you consider to be the most important innovations, like inventions, during your lifetime?
Oh, I would say technology with the computers, with the cell phones, even airplanes. I watched my dad go from flying DC-3s, where it took us 9.5 hours to get to California, to going into the DC-4s, the DC-6s, the DC-8s, and then the jet age. And automobiles, the same thing. I never was in the horse and buggy stage, thank God. But I've seen a drastic change with cars, airplanes, technology.
What was your first car that you ever had, and what's the car that you have now?
The first car I ever had was a 57 Chevy, which if I had now would be worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
I got it as a graduation gift, but the rule was I had to save half of the money for whatever car I wanted. I could have had any car I wanted, but I had to have half of the car in cash